Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. Here are your hosts, Oswyn and Lord Night. Let's talk about Tesla.
Okay.
Not the car.
Nope. The guy.
Yes, we're talking about the scientist, the one and only Tesla.
Brilliant, but a little
Disturbed.
And that seems to be the case with brilliant people.
With most geniuses. Oh,
Have you noticed that their ability to interact with the world seems to drop?
Right.
Again, it's something I think that can be fixed with,
medication.
More shagging. And especially if the shagging that winds up with babies at the end.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
What I'm interested in here is divine math.
Divine math, or sacred math.
Sacred math, yes.
Sacred math.
Tesla was obsessed with 3, 6, and 9.
Which were all divisible by 3 or multiples of 3.
Right.
Which we get the whole entire, the
Maiden Mother
Crone, Page Warrior,
and then
Hermit. Yeah. Which less known, but again, a multiple of 3.
Right. And even in Christianity, they have their own Trinity.
Well,
and
then you also have the Trinities, the 3 sides of a triangle or the 3 points of a triangle.
Right. The pyramids.
Then you have all the mysteries of 4, which is the 4 elements, the 4 ways of balance, the 4 airs, the 4 winds or the 4 directions.
Right.
So sacred numbers have always been part of craft, depending on how you want to use it.
Right.
Now, typical numerology only normally deals with 1 through 9.
Yes.
So all math is reduced down to a single number. So in numerology, you will never wind up with a 666, from my understanding. I will go ahead and state this. I could be wrong. Not my field of expertise.
Well, I did study a little bit of numerology, and from what I could tell, there were only 2 numbers that are never reduced.
That was like 11 and 22. But anyway, what you normally do and where all this starts, from my understanding, is you start by writing 1 through 9 down on a piece of paper. Then you start writing the alphabet underneath till you get to the very end, which then gives you a number for each letter of the alphabet.
Right.
Again, some numbers repeat over and over again. Then you add up all you write out your name and you write down each number that corresponds to your letter off that chart.
Right.
And then you add those up. Then if it comes out for any number larger than a single digit, you then reduce that number down. So if it comes out to like 19, you do 1 plus 9, which then gives you 10, and you do 1 plus 0.
Right.
Which gives you 1.
Right.
So, my understanding. Now, as far as sacred math goes, I understand there's some of it has to do with herbalism and doing parts and stuff like that. But I think the majority of those are done in rhythm and rhyme.
I don't know. That is so far out of my area of expertise.
Well, that sometimes that the rhythm or a rhyme of a poem was the parts that you were put in for the actual recipe.
Now that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah. That you're actually using the rhythm of the rhyme to do the measurements for each one. So if you got a line that does a count of 2, it's 2 parts.
Right.
If you have a line that seems to fall into the rhythm of 3, it's 3 parts.
Right.
Strange how we do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, we're still talking about math, even though it's music.
Mm-hmm.
Because the two are very interchangeable.
They are, yeah.
So again, there is sacred math out there. And sacred math that even moves over into our music and the way we do things. Because again, you could do a tune with a 4 count, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get the energies of the 4 into circle. Strange, ain't it? So, I mean, this stuff can become as complicated or as simple as we need it to be at a time.
Okay.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I know there's certain math that we can do, like the number of days between Sabbaths are 45.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if we take 4 plus 5, we get 9, which is the highest sacred number.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Then you got the 4 grands. Well, 4 grands per year, and 4 being the number of the year with the 4 seasons and the 4 grands.
Okay.
Because remember, we discussed that the fact is that the grands are actually seasons.
Right.
So it's when you're switching from summer to fall, or, okay? Hence the reason why 4 is like the number for the year. Then you got like 9 plus 4, which you get 13, which is the number of the moons in the year.
Right.
So you're getting like 9 for the sacred and 4 for the number of the year to get the number of the moons. This is sacred math.
And then the 13, 1 plus 3 comes back to 4.
Comes back to 4, which is a year.
Right.
So any of this making sense how some of this sacred math works. Don't get me wrong. This is skimming the surface. Trust me, this is easy compared to some of the some of the secret math stuff's enough to make your mind go,
Pretty much, yeah. So as far as sacred math, how can we use that other than sections of 4, sections of 3, put it in a poem or in a song, or
for a recipe, for a mixture,
what are some other ways? What are some other ways this factors into our lives as witches?
The reason we discuss this is that you got to remember that we're told by the laws to hide things in plain sight.
Right.
This is one of the many ways we hide things in plain sight, by using poems and stuff like that, but not using them in the ways you think they are. The number of verses, the number of lines in an incantations and stuff like this. Not only are we bringing the energies of that numbers in to this, but we're also being able to encode information into things this way too, to hide things in plain sight.
Okay. So you're saying this spans back probably millennia.
Oh, God, yes. Well, you got to remember, the reason we have the whole hide in plain sight was the same reason why if you pull up one of Leonardo da Vinci's diagrams for one of his machines and you follow the diagram 100%, the machine's not going to work. But why? Because Leonardo da Vinci put into those diagrams a flaw that only he knew about. So nobody else could copy it. It was a form of copy protection.
Right.
Same things with these spells and the stuff like that. There's all these older books and stuff that a lot of people don't have any use for. But if you go back and you start reading some of this stuff that they got in rhymes and you start looking at this stuff, it's going to change the meaning of what in the world you're actually reading. Do you really think you're reading a poem about Little Red Riding Hood? Really? I mean, come on, people. We're not this stupid. Again, this is one of the things we do in sacred maths. We encode things in things. And you sort of have to learn how in the world to work it, like knowing these numbers and stuff like that. Knowing that 4 is the number of a year. 4 is also the number of Earth, for as far as I know.
So does this come from...
Which then translates into sacred geometry, when you see that in sacred geometry, Earth is always represented by a square. 4 sides, 4 corners.
So there really is a whole lot more to this. This is just like scratching the surface.
Oh, God, yes.
So if somebody wants to learn more about sacred math and sacred geometry...
Not my field of expertise.
Well, yeah, but I mean, could you recommend anything?
Really, I haven't even seen books on sacred math in or geometry. Sacred geometry is the only place I could think of, or a category you could look up to maybe start with the sacred math. I could be wrong there.
Okay.
I mean, because there's more to it than just numerology.
Well, sure.
Doing your birth date number and all this other stuff. That's just the trick or something to entertain the kids with.
Right.
The actual sacred math tells us stuff about the universe and the laws of the universe and how we describe things. Again, we're a lot of people would think that witches would be anti-science. And a lot of people don't understand all the sciences came from witchcraft.
Sure they did, yeah.
That's why in the world the Christians normally have a problem with the sciences because of the association that it has with witchcraft. But this information's there, it's out there. I'm not exactly sure where you go to learn about it. Because again, what I teach and what I know of, it's just surface level.
Right.
Again, not my field of expertise. And I have yet to have a student to go, hey, I want to do that.
Yeah, you don't find too many of them.
Oh, no, I want to go research sacred math.
Yeah, you don't find too many of them.
You don't find too many people that want to do sacred geometry.
If we could ever get a student who was just like, teetotal math geek.
Right.
And this was what they excelled at and things like that, then yeah, I could see somebody like that getting into, really delving deep into the sacred maths and the geometry and all of that.
And what it means to bring the energy of 4 or to bring the energy of 5 or 7 into ritual or into a meditation because you're listening to a frequency based upon that number.
Right.
Or you're listening to a tone or a rhythm or a drum beat based on a certain number.
Right.
I'm sorry, this can go completely in directions most people don't think about.
Absolutely, yeah.
What does a 9-beat drum sound? Do you see what I'm asking? I mean, I know nothing about music.
Well, you could, if you're going to do something like that, then, there's any number of combinations within that.
Right. How do you get to 9?
You're
the music geek, not me.
You could do it any number of ways. You can do it with, you can do it with long notes. You can do it with short notes. You can do it with a combination of notes. You can, just.
But that's like that rapid fire.
It's like however you want to do it. There's many ways to put that in there. So.
What do you think? Just from sacred numbers, from Tesla and these numbers and his obsession with it, if you learn what he says about the math stuff, you sort of start getting into more of that deeper mystical number thing there.
Well, yeah, because he believed that if you could understand
these three numbers,
you
could understand the universe.
Then you held the keys to the universe.
Hence the reason he always did that vibration, power, and frequency.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Which it came in 3s.
Right.
In which we discuss, in which we use this concept to describe the spiritual realms from psychological all the way up to astral and the God planes.
Right. Yeah, energy, frequency, and vibration.
See, we're using this same concept here. The reason I like this guy and some of the stuff that went on there, he's stepping into a world that's not his own. He's getting this information that we've been talking about for years.
Right.
There was like
Iger.
Right. Was sitting there and was watching Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
And literally turned around and looked at the lady at the time and looked at Lady Abba and was like, y'all talk this way. What the hell?
Right.
And she's like, no shit. We believe in quantum physics. Yes, it works. We're duh.
Right.
We're not separate from this.
Well, and there's no reason to make it separate.
No, it's no use in making it more complicated than it needs to be. But
right.
Again, we're told to hide these things and stuff because we have been persecuted as a religion. And again, we've done this through the years, and the sacred math and stuff was a way we used to hide stuff, or to help hide stuff and transfer it over and remember it later. So if you go back with some of this information, reread some of these old books, you might be surprised at what you find out.
Yeah, armed with that kind of knowledge, yeah.
Yeah. Just because you're reading a witch book, and they're sitting there talking about Lincoln Green does not necessarily mean they're talking about Lincoln Green.
Right.
They could be actually talking about the whole mythology and stuff attached to it behind it. It's just they're not directly saying that.
Let's talk about policing our own.
Okay. This is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
What we're about to talk about is something that I've noticed that is going on in the pagan community, especially in the more traditionalist community for years. Is this, well, I'm a first degree, or I'm a second degree, or I'm a third degree, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Again, it's that lady, I'm a third degree, I'm a, I'm a fourth generational witch, or I'm the high priestess here. Again, right. It's the same thing. Okay, now again, in our protocol, we do not refer to ourselves in our titles.
No, we don't.
All right, we consider it a sign of being arrogant.
Arrogant, yeah. Self-centered. Whatever.
Right. So when I introduce myself, I just introduce myself by my craft name, and that's it. Again, the clue there is you hear 3 names, and you should figure out that I'm a third degree and go on appropriately.
Right.
But at no time does this give me the authority to look at somebody else going, well, if you're not part of a craft,
Right.
No, I don't actually believe they're a witch, because I believe that's a title for first degrees. First, you become a witch. But again, not going to die on that hill, I guess. I don't know how to put that.
No, I know. It's not an argument that you really believe in. I mean, you do believe in it, but it's not. I
believe in it as far as the technical, what in the world's going on there.
Right, but it's not something you're going to beat over somebody's head.
Right. I'm not going to sit there and have a field day because Ted and Barb down the road want to call themselves witches. Okay, whatever.
Right.
Life will go on. I don't care. But I got to say this about our own community. We can be arrogant little motherfuckers.
Of course we can.
All right. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's and you can tell me if I'm wrong here. There's a difference between being smug and me sitting back listening to somebody else, and I got that look on my face like, yes, I know something you don't know, and I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just letting you go on and on and on. And it's not that we find it fun, and it's not that I find it funny or anything. It's just I'm normally sitting there remembering when I used to be in that spot.
Right.
And that's why in the world I find it cute and just let you go on ramble. Because that's sort of what helps some people to figure this stuff out.
Right. But you spout out enough stuff and you start putting pieces together for yourself.
Right. I mean, and don't get me wrong, because I've heard them do that. They'll get out on the internet or, Discord and all these other things. And, well, I ain't got to answer that. That's a mystery. Well, some things are a mystery. But there's a difference between, that's as far as I'm going to go on that.
Right.
And versus, well, I am not going to talk about that because it's a mystery and blah, 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 blah. When it's really not.
Right.
Because, I remember this incident, Lady Keegan. Lady Keegan was on Discord or somewhere. And these people were like, well, this guy popped in and was like, how do you, why should we meditate or learn these planetary hours?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And the answer is that meditating during these planetary hours help you be able to sense these energies, right? And that these energies are nothing more than an extension of our nature.
Right.
And that's it. That's the answer. There's no mystery there.
No.
But but these people went off with, oh, no, that's a mystery. Go away. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to answer that. This is what I'm talking.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of people wanting to present themselves as knowing more than what they already know.
Right.
And I think that's what it boils down to.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Every first degree goes through this. The majority of the time.
The majority of the time, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they try not to, some use some don't try not to, but yet it still slips through. They get this, I'm better than you. I've been initiated. You're just some solitary Wiccan, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I'm like, no, their spirituality is theirs. We can't knock it.
Right.
They can believe whatever in the world they want. You know, if you just want to sit there and let them run off at the mouth and you just smile and turn them out, go for it. But sitting there being smug about it ain't helping your cause any.
No, it's not. As a lady at work likes to say, I look down at you like you're small.
Because you are.
You know, having that kind of attitude doesn't really do any good for anybody.
No.
We all try not to be that person.
Right.
Does it happen sometimes? Yeah, it does.
You're always going to run into in one of these witch stores or metaphysics stores or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to run into that one guy. Well, yes, I've gotten 12 degrees from 12 different
right,
and all this other stuff, and makes you want to go, well, why do you have from 12 different places? What was wrong with the first place?
Well, and see, I've also noticed it not just in the traditional community.
Right.
Traditional as in our
right
type of traditional.
As a community, the traditional community.
Right. But I've also noticed it in the solitary community where people are, like you said earlier, you know, well, I'm a fourth generation witch, or I'm this or I'm that, and I do this better than anybody else does. I hear that all the time.
Well, I hear a lot of criticism about the traditional community doing this, about degree systems and all this other stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah. As far as degree systems go.
But yet, I hear it in the pagan community at large. Still, I'm an author, so I know more than you. Is it literally how it sounds like? Oh, I'm an author. And that like is supposed to, you know, so.
I don't think that that's necessarily people looking down on other people by spouting off this and that. I think that comes from the need, and it's a phenomenon that I've seen over the past, 5-10 years, where people need to validate themselves, or they need to prove that they know this or that they don't know this to other people. And so therefore, when they talk, they're giving off their quote unquote credentials.
Right. Where we try to teach, the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
The proof is in the doing. When you see priests and priestesses acting like priests and priestesses and encouraging, you know what I'm saying?
Right. But I think that when we sit around and we spout off our credentials,
right,
I think that comes across to the majority of people as, I look down on you because you're small.
True.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think that's the intention.
Right.
Necessarily.
Right.
Could be. Not ruling that out. But I think that's where a lot of that comes from sometimes.
Like I said, I don't get it because I was raised to believe the proof was in the pudding.
Right.
That I'm not important. It should be the message. Because the message or the religion can outlive me.
So how do we, quote unquote, police ourselves to kind of cut down on that? And how do we make sure it doesn't happen?
I'll be honest with you. I don't care what degree you are. If you see me out online and I start acting that way, call me out. There's nothing in any of the laws I've ever heard of or anything like that that we're in the world. You can't look at a first degree, can't look at a third degree and go, been a little cocky there, ain't you?
Right.
In other words, you might want to step down. But then on the other hand, this is the way I look at it. Again, policing our own. How good are we being, us that are third degrees and elders now? How good are we doing if we're allowing people to rise to these ranks with this attitude?
True.
This should be stomped out before anybody even thinks about getting their second degree.
I completely agree with that.
All right. Again, like I said, it is common for first degrees, and normally in most traditions, we sort of gently try our best to explain to you, no, you ain't all that in a bag of chips.
Well, and I think also it happens at second, and it also happens at third, because there's a little bit of extra authority that comes with those within the traditional community.
Well, see, I think by the time you get to third, you've learned your lesson enough. You're kind of more
But that's what I was going to say. You know how to catch yourself.
Right.
You know, you get a little bit better at that at second degree, and then by third degree, you should be able to see it coming before it happens.
Right.
And you should be able to stop yourself.
Right. And
just
again,
saying.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're a first degree or a second degree and you're about to call out a third degree on, yes, be tactful, be nice, and go, no, I really think you're being a dick.
Right. Also, be prepared to be shut down, because you may be in the wrong.
You might be.
There might be something else going on that third degree knows.
That you don't.
That you don't. So be prepared to shut down.
Because here's the problem. And now here's the problem. My real question is, are people confusing those moments where we're sitting back, getting that smirk on our face because we know something they don't know?
Mm-hmm.
And that bit of knowledge, that moment of knowledge that passed through your mind, and you get that look on your face? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Could that be being perceived as smugness when it's really not?
Yes, it could.
Do you see what I'm saying?
And it has been. Yeah.
Where I'm sitting back,
Well, and sometimes what happens in that is we're starting to see that person connect the dots.
Right. And we're more,
but we can't really say anything. And sometimes, yeah, that comes across as being smug might be because of our facial expressions or our body language or something like that. But it's more of, okay, we see this person making this process happen.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's hard not to have that look on your face when you're sitting there talking to somebody and they're like 2 inches from saying the right words and it all clicking.
Right.
And you can't get them to do those last 2 inches.
Right. And you might get that little smirk on your face. You might get that little haughty toddy attitude, like, maybe. And then, it happens.
It happens.
So just be aware. It's not always being smug about something.
Right.
There are other things going on.
Some of it is, you lost your concentration right there at the last minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, no, we do need to check our own attitudes. We do need to quit doing this. Because, again, yes, we have these degrees, we have these experiences, and we have these titles, but this is based on our experiences.
Right.
And the level of achievements. That's all. Yes, I think they should be respected and done. Yes, it does piss me off when lady eats a lot of cake, starts calling herself Lady Eats a Lot of Cake because it's a Thursday.
Right.
All right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still have a problem with the Lord Flots out there. And again, you can hear them. They'll be in them shops and stuff like that and go on and on about how good they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of like, I'm done with this. I don't care about you. I care about what you're saying.
Right.
So I think that's all I got to say.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, the maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till